Hello, once again, my friends. Welcome to Kardec Radio. This is Spiritism, a closer look. I'm Luiz Lima, your host for tonight, broadcasting from Orlando, Florida. And in this program, we are going to take a closer look at punishments and rewards in the afterlife. Well, let me start saying that we all have our personal, individual views on the concept of afterlife and anything that has to do with that. That leads us to perceive, because we have different views on that, that leads us to perceive punishments and rewards in our own way. So it's like flavored or tailored to our personal views. So let's bring this spiritist view on the subject and see if we can all be on the same page. So the first thing is, what comes after death? And that's already, there is no consensus on the answer. There are different answers, different opinions, different cultures will play a role into that. So we can say there's a vague notion about the possibility of an afterlife. Depends on a bunch of things, like I said. So for some people, it's a certainty. It's a sure thing. For other people, it's a mystery. And for other people, it brings fears and doubts. So regardless of any of that, we all carry the instinct of preservation in us. Even those who do not believe in the life after death, we still have our instinct of preservation. You protect your body, your life in general, from potentially harmful things. So the notion about the afterlife and punishments and rewards that will come with that depends on the moral advancement of each one of us. And we are all in different stages. So for those who believe in something after death, those who believe in afterlife, we start questioning things because we need to, each one of us, we can believe in the afterlife, but not the same way. And then what you see is a lot of different spiritualists, segments, Spiritism also, because our views do not match. So why do we think that after death, there will be some sort of punishment or reward? Just the fact that you cannot be, not necessarily we are sure if there's punishment or reward. However, just the fact that we consider both, that's already because there is hope. There is something that we hope happens in a future life after this one. So at least there's some hope. It could be something, depends on the person, of course. It could be something temporary, something eternal, a mix of both, or if that's even possible. So it's about this reality after life, with its sense of justice. Will justice be made one day? All of these have to do, or they tie into hope for a future life. So when it comes to believing and processing, each one of us processing the ideas of punishments and rewards in afterlife, three things can happen. For the skeptical ones, there is doubt. For the guilty ones, it brings fear. And for the good ones, it brings hope. So this already puts us in different stages according to our moral stage of advancement. We all know that we'll get to the same point at the end, our destination is known, is well known. It's perfection and happiness, absolute happiness, not relative like here, which is fragmented. No, it's absolute happiness and perfection. But until we get there, it will be necessary for us to reincarnate as many times as needed to purify the soul, so we can reach that level. So a little bit at a time, each reincarnation, each incarnation serves the purpose of allowing us to purify our souls. So when we get there to the stage of perfection and happiness, reincarnation is no longer needed because I don't have to purify anything anymore. We will, at that point, we will reincarnate by choice as a mission, by choice, not by necessity, by law of progress. So for now, we are on our journey towards perfection, all of us. However, we are in different stages. Each person, each incarnated or discarnated person, spirit here on the planet, we are in different stages throughout this long journey. So some of us are more advanced, some are less advanced, some are in the middle. So what happens is the ideas surrounding punishment and reward in the afterlife depend on that level of advancement that each one of us is at. So more advanced spirits have a different view than less advanced spirits. So let's talk about a little bit about this thing. So when you consider that more advanced spirits and less advanced spirits have different views on something, it already brings us back to the spirit scale, the scale that show us how to. Let me bring this on the screen for you here. That's we've presented this many times. We've done very deep studies on this. For now, it's just information so we can follow along. So less advanced spirits in the bottom of the scale, going up through a series of colors here. The red spirits are inferior spirits. The green spirits are good spirits, better than those. And the blue pure spirits are the ones who did reach that stage of happiness. So the idea of punishment and reward depends on where we are on this spirit scale. For low order spirits, which are the ones in shades of red, there is a predominance of evil over good. As we advance, for the green spirits, or higher order spirits, or good spirits, there's a predominance of good over evil. It's different. So for those low order spirits, the ones in shades of red, what happens is the idea between punishment and reward leads us to believe, and the red spirits are the ones here on earth, that we are mostly red spirits here. So it leads us to believe that there is no reward, there's punishment in principle. Because that's our focus, that's what we see, that's what predominates in our current stage of things. Like I said, predominance of evil over good. So this evil projected to a future in the afterlife will bring punishment. At least this is a general idea. So we have rough and absurd ideas on the afterlife. Ideas of this hell, the eternal fire, all of these things are predominant at the level that we are here on earth because we are lower order spirits. We haven't evolved yet to a certain level where, reward is the obvious thing. No, for us, punishment is the obvious thing, unfortunately. So with this idea of punishment comes pain and suffering, which, by the way, comes from the perception that we suffering and pain is still needed for us to reach a state of happiness. That's our perception. That we still need to suffer to get to be happy. Not necessarily, but that's mostly what low order spirits go by. So the uncertainty about how this punishment slash rewards thing works in the afterlife, it doesn't make us, doesn't put us as easy. It's complicated. People or spirits in the lower order segments of the scale, they that includes us. They're tortured by the happiness of high order spirits, and they expect punishment later on at a certain point. For spirits like that, there's a general feeling of preparedness for our fate in the afterlife, meaning I'm going to have to suffer. That's the perception. I'm going to have to suffer. I'm going to go through punishment. So I better get ready. Let me get ready. So you prepare for that. When in reality, it's our perception. Happiness is for us is punctual. I can be happy now for some reason for 10 minutes. Then it's over. That's it. We go on with our lives, complaining, being mad and angry and so on. And then we have another 15 minutes of happiness for some reason. So our happiness is fragmented. We are mostly not in those fragments of happiness. We are mostly in the other part, fragments of not happiness. That's why punishment is around our mental field most of the time, not rewards. For higher order spirits, it's the other way around. They believe and they know absolutely, because they're more advanced, they know about punishments and rewards, and they do believe in rewards because that's what they're living by right now. There's a tremendous, in these higher order spirits, there's a tremendous sense of, I would say, responsibility about the circumstances of life. Responsibility. If I do this, I'm going to have to offset somehow at a certain point. So the ability to understand the condition of these spirits undergoing affliction is regarded from the high order spirit's point of view with respect, because they've been there. They're much more advanced than we are, so they have suffered and they went through what we are going through right now. So they understand us and they respect our positions. They will let us go through what we have to go through to be better people, to evolve even more. And when they look down, because these high order spirits, a lot of them are spirit guides for low order spirits. When they look down on us, they don't suffer per se. They don't, they don't have this thing about, oh my God, let me suffer because the one I'm supposed to protect is suffering. No, because they understand it's what we have to go through to get better. Because they've had their faulty behaviors in the past, in past lives. And that's what we are facing. They see they are with us, they will help us, they will give us intuitions and inspirations, but they can't do our job. This is a personal and not transferable thing. So pure spirits, high order spirits, and we spoke about lower order spirits, then higher order spirits, and then there's the pure spirits. Those are at the bosom of God. They fully understand things that, there are 4 things, by the way, that the human mind has a tremendous hard time, 4 concepts, and they are God. We cannot fully explain these 4 things. God, infinity, the idea of eternal, and the idea of nothing. When I say infinity here, we're not talking about infinity in math equations or mathematics. It's not that. Because what we do is, if you start counting, for example, uh, bring yourself into math. So you start counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then and then it goes on and on and on to infinity. But it's an idea that doesn't really bother because the numbers are growing. When you get to maybe 1,000, you get tired and yeah, that's it. So it doesn't really bother. However, this is not math. This is infinity under a philosophical point of view. We do not comprehend infinity. Uh, Look at the sky. And we know that there are 200 billion galaxies observable galaxies, 200 billion. In each one, there's 200 billion stars. That already blows our mind. And that's not even close to the actual infinity. So we have a very hard time with this concept. Same for the idea of eternal nothing in God. Coming back to the subject, the law of God is self-sustaining. What we do is going to create mechanisms for us to offset. God doesn't have to micromanage our lives. It will go by itself. We do bad things, they'll come back to us in a way. We're going to have to offset this in a way or another. So the law of God is all based on action and reaction. There is no need for a middleman to judge, to dictate, to make things happen. They happen by themselves. The entire creation goes, the laws are so perfect that everything goes by itself. So punishment, it's not really punishment the way we know it, based on the definition of the word. It's more like, if you think about it, it's more like a self-inflicting boomerang. You throw something, it will come back to you. So you throw something bad, that boomerang is going to hurt you back at one point. And same if we throw out good things, good thoughts, good energy, it will come back to us as good things. It will be well received and welcome when it gets back. So if you think about this, everything is based on action and reaction. So it's all a boomerang. So our punishment has its origin in our soul, not outside. It's not something that is generated outside. No, it's a reflection of something that we did. So what comes in the afterlife is a consequence of what was done in our previous lives, many of them, because it all started too long ago. And the idea of punishment does not refer to punishment in the afterlife, does not refer necessarily to the life that just ended. No. Punishment or the offset of wrongdoings might come from many, many, many lives ago, previous lives that we are trying to still, offset and set up our path towards perfection. And all of this brings us the idea of pain, suffering, and so the question is, I think, can we offset everything in one life? More or less like this. Say, we discarnate today, we spend time in the afterlife planning, first understanding what we did right, what we did wrong, what we could have done better, differently, and so on and so on. And then in the spirit world, or in errant state, as we say, we're going to plan for our next life. Then we're going to look at the inventory of wrongdoings, inventory of problems and things that I have to offset. It's going to be a long list. It's going to be long, long, long list. And then the question is, can we offset all of that on that list in one life? I'm planning my next life. I'm going to plan to just come here and get it over with once and for all. We wouldn't be able to, because the pain would be so unbearable that we wouldn't be able to live. We wouldn't be able to do anything. So how does it work? Look at how the law is nice, and we offset, or we pay, for those who like the word, in installments. We have this tremendous list of things that we go through. We feel this tremendous pain, and we offset a little bit at a time, as we wish. That a little bit of time means one incarnation at a time, on my own pace. There is no preset, established pace by God or whoever. There is no such a thing. We're going to have to go through all of those expiations. Expiation is what we need to do to offset. It's the purification of the soul. So the cleansing of the soul. So we need to offset all those things in the past. However, God's mercy and goodness allows us to do at our own pace. And there might be a certain life where we come in here and we say, I don't want to do anything on this life. I plan to be here to work on tolerance, intolerance. But I don't really want to do this life. Of course, this is still going to be pending. It will be done in a future life. Nothing gets left behind. We need to expiate for all our mistakes and wrongdoings of the past. And they are not payment in the sense of an eye for an eye. So, for example, let's say that past lives, we killed a lot of people. So on the upcoming lives, it doesn't mean that we are going to be assassinated. We can be there to save lives. We took lives in the past. Now we're going to save lives. So we're going to work in medical profession, nurse, anything like that. We're going to save lives. So these expiations, they make us offset. And as we do this, it's our learning process, spiritual education. So we can be better. We don't want to go through this again. So we can offset once and never again. So don't repeat the mistake. Don't repeat the wrongdoing. Now, for this to take effect and make sense to us, it brings repentance. So it gives us these expiations. They give us the opportunity to reflect upon what's happening, and it brings us the idea of repentance. And repentance is not related to anything material. Repentance takes place in the soul. So the soul can, purify and engage into moral progress. So this thing has another situation, which is, what is the duration of the future punishment? And the answer to this is very interesting. The duration is, the answer is, it depends on the time that is necessary for improvement. It's never eternal. Depends on the time that is necessary for improvement. And what does that time depend on? It depends on free will. It depends on us. That's God's mercifulness. and goodness. It depends on free will. There will be lives that I want to do a little bit less this life. And there are other times we're going to come in here and say, I want to do the most as I can, offset most of my things in the past. So the perception of the duration of this punishment is not the same for all spirits. More advanced spirits experiment for a shorter time, and even more advanced spirits, those in the green, shades of green, they don't see punishment. They see reward. We are still in a stage that we look and see and live towards this preparing for punishment. So our future life ends up being our own individual narrative based on our state of moral evolution. Everything that is associated with future life carries this content, which is, my narrative on what could happen. We do this ourselves. Nobody's telling us, here's a list of punishment. Here's what's going to happen. Number 1, number 2, number 3. It doesn't come ready. It's not a canned list. It's different for everyone, and everyone decides upon it. That's God's mercy. So are we ever going to change our perspective on punishment in the afterlife? Yes, we will. Not tomorrow. We're still very low on the scale. But yes, we will. And when? When good outweighs evil. When good outweighs evil, that's when we are going to see reward over punishment. And that comes with moral progress. We need to be more advanced, more evolved, morally and intellectually speaking. So back to the beginning. The perception of punishments and rewards in the afterlife depends on the level of advancement. These punishments, or even the rewards, they cannot be of a material nature because it has to do with the soul, with the spirit. And the soul, the spirit, have nothing material. So this is solely spiritual improvement. I think the idea behind punishments and rewards is this. Spiritism gives us a clear view on the subject. Of course, this is a summary. We could spend hours and hours here. On the Spirit's book, on the last chapter, that's exactly what the chapter is for. These it's called Joys and Sorrows, Future Joys and Sorrows. So it's something that we should not read, but study, because those are pretty interesting and intelligent questions and answers that will give us a better perspective. Regardless, as we get better, everything gets better. As we improve morally, as we evolve morally, everything is easier, less complicated, makes more sense, because a lot of things don't make sense for us now because we don't understand all of it. Well, thank you very much for being part of tonight's program with us. And don't forget, Spiritism, A Closer Look. It's going to be here next Wednesday. We do this every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you very much. Be well.